Joining us right now is D.C. Council Member and Chair Phil Mendelson. Council Member Mendelson, Mr. Chairman, thanks for joining us.
Sure, good morning.
You caused a little bit of a stir yesterday there in the council chambers for daring to suggest that maybe, just maybe, it's not the best time for the city to be spending a lot of money on this streetcar project. Tell me what your idea is here with the streetcars, what you want to see accomplished, and tell me why you think you're getting such pushback.
Well, the pushback is the mayor and his folks were not happy that we were reducing the amount of increase in the budget over the next 5 years. There is about almost $600 million in the budget for streetcars over the next 5 years. Over the last several years, the government hasn't been able to spend anywhere close to $100 million a year. I think it's been less than $50 million a year. And so based on spending, there's more than enough dollars going forward. But the mayor had proposed $800 million, and that was reduced, and that was what led to the pushback.
Well, why are we even spending? I mean, is there really this major call for a streetcar project in the city? Most people think of that, and they think, oh, my gosh, it's going to make traffic even worse.
I don't know. I think that the streetcar coming to H Street should be very exciting. On the other hand, it's been 5 years, maybe even 6 years, and it still hasn't started, which is frustrating to a lot of folks. And I think we need to focus on H Street, finish H Street, while we continue to do the planning for expanding the streetcar line.
All right, so tax cuts a possibility? That's what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, I think that's actually pretty exciting that we're able to look at doing some reduction. There's slight reductions, but they will benefit businesses. We're cutting the business tax. They will benefit residents in several ways, including reductions in the income tax. And that we're able to do that while at the same time we are looking at expanding some services, cut back on homelessness, and so forth.
But at the same time, you're talking about these modest tax cuts. A council is considering sales tax on gyms, yoga, even bowling alleys?
Yeah, that's really overplayed. We had a tax revision commission that came out with recommendations last December. The tax revision commission was chaired by former Mayor Anthony Williams, and they recommended some reforms. The sales tax changes in the category of reform. It's really not about raising revenues, although it does raise a little. It's more about broadening the base on which the sales tax is applied. Taxes should not pick winners and losers or favorites, and the sales tax is a tax that ought to be broadly applied. We actually lowered the rate last year. The Tax Revision Commission had recommended raising the rate, and we didn't do that. So this isn't about revenue. It's about the notion that the sales tax should apply to the purchase of all goods and services, not picking favorites.
Well, so wait a minute. You want to tax health club memberships out of a sense of fairness?
In the sense of that the sales tax applies broadly.
But why? I think people look at things and they say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And right now, D.C. just rated the healthiest city in America. Yeah. People like using their health clubs. They like going to yoga. It's a burgeoning industry. Yeah. Why step in and add a tax to it? Because when you tax something, you affect people's behavior, and so it's going to hurt those businesses.
Well, I get that. What tax experts say, and remember there was a tax revision commission behind this, is that there ought to be fairness in how taxes are applied. And the best time to try to do something like that is while at the same time we're lowering taxes. So residents and districts are going to be paying less in taxes. They just are. The income tax is going to go down for some folks, thousands or thousands of dollars a year. So if you're talking about fairness and therefore broadening the base for the sales tax, and you do that at the same time you're cutting taxes, the burden on individual residents is going to be lower.
Well, these are such radical concepts that you have raised the ire of one Marion Barry who says, quote unquote, "You're a damn tyrant."
The issue's been resolved.
No, it has not been resolved to my satisfactory. Any member of this council can object. Now stop it.
Mr. Barry,
May I speak, please?
The amendment's been accepted.
May I speak?
The amendment's been accepted.
That doesn't matter.
Well, then
now, I asked to speak before it was accepted. I would like to speak. Mr. Chairman, You got to stop this
2
kind of
minutes,
tactics.
please. Mr. Berry, I think
Wait
you're
a
just
minute.
angry.
Let me finish.
You're just sitting there being angry.
So what was going on there?
Oh, you're bringing back some fond memories from yesterday. That had nothing to do with taxes.
I know.
That had to do with how we handle TANF, or welfare benefits. And Mr. Berry felt very strongly on the issue. He was very emotional. As that clip showed, he was insisting on speaking on an issue that had already been approved. And but he was so angry, and that's what that was about. And I appreciate his emotion on the issue, absolutely. But as the presiding officer, I have to maintain order. And when the matter's been approved, you no longer can speak about it.
I got to ask you about this other story that just it drives people crazy, and it has to do with the fire department and this ambulance.
Yes.
We're now finding out that there was another case. We said yesterday that a 90-year-old woman had to wait 30 minutes for an ambulance that never came. We now understand, as we get more information, this poor woman waited 45 minutes for an ambulance. It never came. The fire truck was there, but the ambulance never arrived. And when she finally started to fall into unconsciousness, the people there put her in the fire truck. They threw her in the back of the fire truck and took her to the hospital.
Yeah.
When are we going to fix these problems? What can be done? And how long can we stand behind this fire chief?
Well, I absolutely understand that frustration, and I think the frustration is widely shared by council members. We are not happy with the dysfunction in that department. There are two parts to this story. One is that the paramedic arrived quickly. There was a paramedic on the scene. But the ambulance, which needed to transport that woman to the hospital, didn't show up. And you can tell that even the firefighters were upset.
Well, I understand that it's frustrating, but, I mean, if you live in the District of Columbia, you've got to be really concerned because, the one thing we expect of our government is when you call 911, that an ambulance is going to come.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. Let me say this. Residents, and I'm a resident, should not be afraid that when they call 911, they're not going to get help. There are over 100,000 EMS calls every year. But these exceptions should not happen. They just should not happen. And it's clear that there's dysfunction. It's clear that the department is struggling. The firefighters and the EMS folks are trying, and mistakes like this, and I don't know what the mistake was, whether it was in a dispatch or a unit that was supposed to respond that didn't. I don't know.
But, Mr. Chairman, there's the impression that there is just no accountability in this department, and there have been hearings, and your colleague, Mr. Wells, has had hearings, and the police chief is under fire constantly. The fire chief, excuse me, but nothing happens. What is going to happen?
I agree, and I've talked to the deputy mayor about this. I've talked to the mayor about this. I absolutely share the frustration. But
is anything going to happen?
I think that the deputy mayor is trying. I think the mayor is trying, and I'm hopeful that there will be. I'm hopeful that there will be some significant improvements. I'll say changes, and that they happen soon.
All right, Chairman Phil Mendelson of the D.C. Council, it's always good to hear from you, and I think we get a lot accomplished when you join us, so we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.